Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Pleasant Valley Board of Education meeting for May 28th, 2020 to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I'd like to inform everyone that this meeting for virtual board meeting is being recorded this evening. Mr. Kresge, would you lead us in the pledge?
Okay, Donna, thank you. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone here in attendance to our 5th virtual board meeting. Mrs. Duff, roll call, please.
Sue Kresge,
Present.
Donna Yoswiak,
Present.
Todd Kresge,
here.
Norm Berger, Laura Jecker,
Yes.
Len Peters,
Here.
Teresa Grego,
Present.
Dan Wonder,
Here.
Delbert Zacharias.
Here.
An executive session was held on May 28th, 2020, immediately prior to the regularly scheduled meeting for purposes of personnel matters, including but not limited to performance and/or discipline, negotiations, and legal issues. At this time, item 1F on the agenda, I would like to call for nominations for the election of the board treasurer for a term to begin July 1st, 2020 and to expire on June 30th, 2021.
I'd like to nominate Laura Jecker.
I'll second.
I have one nomination for Mrs. Laura Jecker. Do I have any other nominations? With that, nominations will be closed, and I'd like to take a roll call vote, please.
Sue Kresge,
Yes.
Donna Yoswiak,
Yes.
Len Peters,
Yes.
Dan Wonder,
Yes.
Norm Berger, Todd Kresge,
Yes.
Laura Jecker,
Yes.
Teresa Grego,
Yes.
Delbert Zacharias.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mrs. Jecker. You will continue to review all kinds of documents and checks and bills for the next year. I love
Thank
it.
you.
You did a very good job this previous year.
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody. Thank you, Laura.
1H, meeting procedures have been attached to the Pleasant Valley Bears website for your reading enjoyment. And at this time, I would like to invite Pleasant Valley citizens to speak for up to a maximum of 3 minutes on agenda items only. And you can do this by raising your hand.
We have one person raising their hand.
Okay. Please state your name and your township of residence.
Yes, name is James Surface, and I'm a resident of Chestnut Hill Township. I'd like to speak on an agenda item that is, I believe it's item 9.G. I believe you're going to look at the supplemental contract and look to approve that on this evening's agenda. I just want to speak to the fact that there is a particular position that's part of that contract, marching band equipment driver. I believe it's the only position that's looking at a 33% reduction in the rate. I do believe that some of the interested applicants have expressed they're not interested in doing that position any longer. I know of two, and quite honestly, myself, I'm reconsidering it. I think that reduction is a little drastic, and I would ask the board to reevaluate that and reconsider it. I thank you for your attention at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Surface. Are there any other community members? None, Chuck?
Nope. We're good.
Okay,
Give it
Thank
another
you.
second because sometimes it takes time.
okay. Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 2, Mrs. Famularo.
Thank you. Tonight I'm seeking approval, I'm requesting approval of the minutes of the meeting held on May 14th, 2020, and approval of the May 28th, 2020 board meeting agenda.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wonder,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Kresge. Is there any discussion? Voice votes, please. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mrs. Jecker, number 3, treasurer's report, please.
Good evening. Tonight I am seeking approval for item 3A. B is informational.
May I have a motion for item 3A?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Berger,
Second.
second by Mr. Zacharias. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Norm Berger,
Yes.
Delbert Zacharias,
Yes.
Todd Kreski,
Yes.
Len Peters,
Yes.
Teresa Grego,
Yes.
Sue Kreski,
Yes.
Dan Wonder,
Yes.
Laura Jecker,
Yes.
Donna Yoswiak.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Jecker.
Thank you.
Number 4, under unfinished business, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Good evening. No unfinished business this evening.
I have some unfinished business that I would like to bring forth. The entire board has seen 2 presentations on 2 local healthcare providers that are seeking to have a contract in order to better serve our youth at the high school. And we are not permitted to discuss our opinions or observations in private. So I'm asking board members to please share your observations and your opinions about the presentations at this time. One of the presentations was made by Lehigh Valley Coordinated Health, and the other presentation was made by St. Luke's Healthcare.
I can lead off here.
Thank you.
I'm very much, as I sit here right now, very much up in the air as to which I would vote for at this very moment. Both sides made very, very compelling, statements of their case as far as all the things they can do for Pleasant Valley. However, despite all the things we're being given, I think that the bottom line has to be the level of health care that our kids receive on the field, the level of medical attention. I think to me, that's the only major consideration that carries weight to this, because that's their main function. That being said, I certainly heard Mrs. Grego say that loyalty counts a lot. I read numerous letters of support for coordinated health, and many from people in the community and coaches that I respect. However, I do understand that a survey was given by the athletic director to all the coaches, and they were to give him feedback and rate, what they felt in this case of coordinated health, and would like to have that information shared with us so that all of the coaches, basically, we get feedback from all of them. before I would want to be comfortable in making a final decision. And that's all I'll say for right now.
Anyone else?
Yeah, it's Norm. I think I agree that both sides have made a very compelling argument. I've gotten some very good feedback relative to St. Luke's and the work that they're doing. I'm perhaps less impressed by the marquee names that they say they would have available to come in and do talks, although the people that are in sports, I'm sure, would be for it. One of the things that I thought would be of particular value, not only to the school system, but also to parents of the athlete, is the proposal by St. Luke's to provide sort of a self-insured approach whereby they would accept the payments that were put forth by whatever insurance policies that the school or the families might have. The other thing I was somewhat impressed with was the fact of the overall lower cost basis in their entire medical system, and the high ratings that they continue to get. So if you get high ratings and low cost, it would seem that everybody could benefit from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. Anyone else?
I'll add one more thing.
Okay.
My experience, I know there's concern about the trainers, and my experience in working both in government and contracts and in private industry in contracts is that where the customer is pleased with the service that's being provided by a particular contractor, and if that contractor is willing to talk to those particular individuals, that there's generally, and those individuals are also satisfied with where they're working and don't have a higher job offer somewhere else, a high percentage of those individuals will be retained by whoever the incoming contractor is. So that's been my experience both both as in private industry and also in government and dealing with contracts.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, Norm, this is Todd. For that comment you just made, basically, the athletic, for our, like Jay and Bond and our trainers, basically they have a contract with Coordinated Health. Well, they got basically a no compete clause. So even if St. Luke's would get this contract, our athletic trainers would not be allowed to work in Pleasant Valley School or even within a certain mile radius of the school that they could be trainers in. Because they cannot compete against a rival entity.
And Todd, to add to what you had said, I had reached out to our athletic director, Tom Toth, to inquire specifically about that no compete clause to get the exact verbiage that was in the agreement. And it actually says that if the trainers were hired by the competitor, they would be prohibited from working at Pleasant Valley for up to 2 years.
2 years, correct.
Yes, yes.
So, and with that being said, like getting rid of the experience that we have with our trainers now and how they know our students, they know our faculty, they reach out to a lot people, in the building, to throw that away, I don't think that'd be worth it. Because they're here for our athletes, for our students, so, and they've been doing a wonderful job. So that's my thoughts.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'll just add on to that since we're on the trainers. We also have 2 team physicians that service 2 Division I schools, Lehigh University and Lafayette College. So I just feel like what we have, we'd be giving up a lot. And that goes along with the experienced trainers as well as the team doctors. And one of them, Terpstra, is right there on the fields with us.
Anyone else?
I have another comment. I just didn't know, I didn't want to put it all out there at once, but
Go ahead.
going back to what Dan said about the rating scale, 1 to 10, we received many from the coaches, and many of them also put a number in there. So Dan, you're just asking him to, put that together in a chart, correct?
Well, the thing that struck me, Teresa, is I'm willing to wait for it before I get too far out on a tree limb here. But there was a lot of feedback from a lot of people I respect. Head coaches, Michelle Pinkowski, Mark Allison, a lot of people gave us feedback. But I also noticed that there were some major head coaching areas missing. We didn't hear anything, to my knowledge, we didn't hear anything from the head football coach, we didn't hear anything from the head baseball coach. I'm just curious where it all landed. I know that there was a very concerted effort to, beat the drum for good reasons, for coordinated health. But I just kind of would like to hear from, even if it's in Tom Toe's survey, exactly where everybody kind of landed. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, and I believe there were 11 coaches that we did hear from, and then additional testaments on top of that as well.
Right.
There are 18 head coaches, and we heard from 11.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just throw, another thought out is Pleasant Valley has had so much change, from superintendent to administrators to programming to asking our coaches to take a freeze on their salary and level. And I just feel that this is one area at Pleasant Valley that has proven the loyalty and the trust, and I believe can give us confidence, the knowledge, the expertise, and I believe the trust that we so desperately desire to have at Pleasant Valley. And I believe that with all the changes, this is one thing that we could hold steadfast with, knowing what we've had in the past, and those comments that have come through, not disregarding, like you said, Dan, those people that we truly respect, that are on the fields and in the, on the track and in the training rooms, and get to have the first chance experience.
Bearing in mind too, we did, and I don't want to be unfair, we did receive some letters of support from St. Luke's.
Yes,
Yes,
we did. Yes,
from
we
a couple other school districts who have them.
did. Okay, so
Correct,
I've heard
correct.
from 4 board members. Others, please.
Well, I would like to, as Dan, I would like to hear from the rest of the coaches. I don't know if we've received, from the 18, we received 11. Did we receive all that feedback? Because some of them wrote individually, so I don't know the answer to that. I like the idea of continuity. I like the idea of the physical therapist that's been working with our athletes is right across the street. But I'd like to make sure I have everything in front of me before I make a final decision.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd like to wait till I hear from that survey that Tom took. I mean, he put a lot of time and effort into it, and I think from my understanding, most of the coaches got back to him. We just haven't heard from them, only the letter writers.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Ms. Yozak, I too would like to wait to get a little bit more information. I am just not sure which direction I want to go at this point. We had two great, programs come to us to look to work with Pleasant Valley, but I'd like just a little more information on other.
Okay, fair enough.
And Don, if we're asking for more information, I'd like it to be very clear what that 96,000 per year is and how that would, why that's on the table, because I'm not sure that we all quite understand. That's a limit, and what happens if we have so many injuries and that's gone in one sport, which it could happen. So a little more clarity on that 96,000 per year and how that's such a big benefit.
Okay.
Sure. And Teresa, are you referring to the health insurance, the insurance for our student athletes?
Yes.
That piece.
Yes.
Yes. And I think that we should hear from Susan Famulera too about that, because we did hear some, but I had learned that that insurance also covers our gym classes, which is very important piece of that.
And if I can ask Teresa, if I can ask a question here, not to put you on the spot, but, and this would apply to either one. If a coach or parents or kids or whatever had issues with our, health provider, what avenue should they take? How do we learn about what those issues are? We have a chain of command, obviously, that addresses evaluations on, coaches, and we've got evaluations on teachers, we got evaluation on aides. How do we evaluate our healthcare providers, and do the coaches and everybody else involved get a chance to give feedback to that? How does that work?
You mean for the trainers and themselves?
Well, yeah, for the services we're getting, specific to the trainers, I guess, but they're the boots on the ground.
Well,
yes.
I would certainly say through those letters that we received, high kudos. It was an excellent response to your question there.
Well, again, not really. Only because
you're saying the opposite, the negative.
I'm only saying not really because those letters were a specific response to a request to support one or the other. And they, you're right. They were wonderful letters. They went on for pages. I'm saying whoever we pick, we're in the middle of football season next year, and something goes amiss, or we're in the middle of baseball and the baseball coach or whoever, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, feels that there's issues. What direction does that take?
Dan, let me see if I can interject in that regard. I think it would be true of any contractual relationship. You'd have to benchmark it within the contract, and then you would have redress within the contract in terms of issues involving the trainers that might be assigned to us, and remedies that we would have for shortcomings in service. So it would have to be done through the negotiations end on the front end with whatever that contract looks like.
Well, that's for services, correct, Mark? I'm saying to make this easy, if I'm the head tiddlywink coach and I have an issue with the trainers or whatever services being provided in whatever scale, where do I go to address that?
Well, that's going to then be a built-in function both within our organization in terms of how we're going to be handling our contractor, and then how we interface with them on that. So we need to build that interface in. Now that we have now that we have a full-time athletic director, one of those responsibilities will be to interface with somebody like, whether it's St. Luke's or Lehigh Valley, constantly on these issues as they come up.
Does our current contract with Coordinated Health have that built in?
Well, I mean, that's something.
Contract.
I would have to look at the contract, Dan. My recollection is probably not to that specificity, in my opinion.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, I also would like to hear from the rest of the coaches, but I also want to remind the board that this is not just about sports. This is a multifaceted relationship we're looking for. It's a partnership that we're looking, they're offering education, scholarships, it's more than just athletic training. So I just want to make sure we don't just think about the training part of it or the sports part of it, but it's a multifaceted contract that will encompass the community, the district employees, and also our sports.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more, Laura, that the entire package is very noteworthy and there's considerable benefit to the district, you know, really with both presentations. But where the rubber meets the road is where what service they're giving our kids on the field and in immediate health care. I think that to me is got to be the priority.
Mhm.
All the rest is gravy.
Anyone else?
Well, I had several people send me emails about, I wasn't here at the time, so I can't comment on it, about a previous experience where an individual could have
Norm,
suffered.
Norm, I think if we're going to talk about specific student-related incidents from the past, that's something we should talk about in executive session.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? I'd like to set a goal for the board, if I may. Since many of us seem to need more information, since many of us would like more data on the $96,000 per year health insurance from Mrs. Famularo, and I sense right now that we've not made up our minds. So my goal, perhaps at the next meeting, would be to come to some agreement so we can authorize Mark, Mr. Fitzgerald, and our administration to begin writing a contract or get in contract negotiations with one of the two providers. Mind this, we are not going to vote at the next meeting for a provider. We're just going to give direction to Mark to start negotiating with someone we are seriously considering. So we would not vote on the only time it becomes official, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, is when we vote on the finalized contract. So go ahead.
Yeah, just to add to that, you are correct. The devil's ultimately in the detail with these arrangements. So the first step of the board will be to come to some sort of consensus as to whom you would want to begin essentially those negotiations period with. If the contract terms are acceptable from our perspective and the administration's perspective, we would then come back with a contract for consideration, and that would then finalize the new arrangement and with one of the two vendors.
So hopefully the next time we meet, we will have all the information we need to make an educated decision. Okay?
Okay.
Is that a plan?
Sounds like it.
Okay. Does anyone have any other unfinished business?
Is that old business?
It's on number 4.
You had asked me to ask Susan Famularo about the money payments that are for the performance review, where it was coming from. Can I do that now?
Sure.
Okay, consider it done. Sue, Donna said I could check in with you as far as where the money came from to pay for that or part of that performance review.
I have not been presented with an invoice for payment yet. It will be charged to board services, and I would expect it to come out of contingency that is in the budget.
Is that going to be 16,000 or the entire amount?
I'm under the impression that it is a $16,000
Yes.
payment.
First payment.
Down payment, yeah. And
Yeah.
when would they get the other, 32,000?
I believe it would go into the next fiscal year where it will be budgeted under board services.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else for new business? Or I'm sorry, unfinished business? Okay, number 5, under new business, all of the committee reports are attached for the board to review.
May I'm
ahead.
sorry, Don, may I jump in just for a second?
Surely.
It's a question that Kathy got my Colonial IU report, so that's fine. But in conversation last night, our board meeting was last night, Dr. Wolfel said that, I think I understood him correctly, that the superintendents and he were going to be meeting with Secretary of Education Rivera, or did you just meet with him, Lee?
We met with him this, about 1 o'clock today.
That's what I thought. Did he give the districts any clue as to have an inkling of what they're thinking about in terms of what's in front of us for next year? Or
He didn't say anything in particular, but he did say that there's a document coming out that school districts will follow.
did he give you a timeline on when that document's coming out?
He said next week.
And I'm smiling, of course, as I say that.
It's government.
Well, no, I mean, the implications of what we have to deal with, I'm sure Dr. Wolf will cover it with you guys or you with him, are staggering. I mean, absolutely staggering. The procedures and the expense and protocol that we may or may not have to put in place come August, September. And I'm hoping that the Department of Ed is going to help all of us out by being more specific than just leaving us on our own to incur all of this confusion.
Dan, I apologize, Dr. Lazisco. I was just going to add, I heard from good sources that there was less than ideal specificity that went into this discussion today. But what, and that's my politically correct way of saying it.
Well, you know more than I do then, Eric.
I'm also of the opinion, at least from a legal end, that short of an act of our state legislature, that I think we're going to be back to a 180-day, 990-hour school year. Remember, we were only relieved of the typical school year by the act of the state legislature. I'm not so sure the Department of Education in and of itself is empowered to do anything that isn't in our statutes. And right now, our statute says that we are supposed to have 180 days of school, not a virtual school, not some sort of continuity of education. Therefore, I think there's going to need to be acts of the state, both from our legislature and our governor, if there's going to be deviation from what the school code currently says.
Well, I agree with you. I'm not hearing anything that they're going to change the school code, but I'm scared to death, as is Dr. Wolf, and I'm sure Dr. Lazisco, as to what we're going to have to face just in terms of supplies and materials in order to deal with COVID, and then what the state's going to recommend. For instance, Dr. Wolf pointed out that if we become proactive and start ordering now, stockpiling stuff now in anticipation of needing a whole myriad of things, masks and all kinds of thermometers and stuff, and then the state comes along and says we have to do things differently, it's an expenditure issue right there. I mean,
Dan,
I'll shut up.
Dan,
This, Norm, I don't see us going back to conditions normal, at least for the fall semester. And so if we're not, in my opinion, planning to do a partial in school and partial virtual, I think we're missing the boat completely. So it's something we're going to need to address very aggressively over the next several weeks, so that when September or late August comes around, we're going to be prepared to at least begin school in some fashion that is not the normal.
But what scares me, I agree with you, Norm, what scares me is the minutia of that is staggering.
Well, I understand that, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be working in anticipation, because if we wait, I guarantee you, we're going to be too late. And it,
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
there are a lot of parents. There are a lot of parents with children out there who are frustrated with what they're currently undergoing. And if we go into the fall in the same mode, we're going to be getting a lot of bad feedback.
That's the reason I brought it up, is that until we can be proactive, and I'm hoping we can encourage the state Department of Education to go hand in hand with us instead of impeding us with any delays in decision making, or being less than forthright in decision making.
Well, I think we should also be active with our state senator and state reps as well, and make them aware of our issues and concerns. So it's up to each of us and the members of the public to make sure that they are informed about the issues that are concerned by the parents and students within Pleasant Valley School District, as well as the community at large and the board of directors.
If I can jump in, we are working, superintendents in the area, we are working on a couple of different scenarios. The problem is we don't know what the state's going to come down and what the edict's going to be. The biggest problem we're going to have is transportation. We're looking at social distancing on a 72 passenger bus. We're only going to get about 13 or 14 kids on a bus. I don't know if it's not going to be feasible to be running back and forth. And I know we're not going to solve this conversation here, but there's a lot of different things that we're looking at. And we also got to take a look at cafeteria. We're not going to be able to serve hot lunches because we're not going to be able to get all the kids in the cafeteria. So we are working.
Dr. Lee, I don't think that the cafeteria for the fall will be within the CDC guidelines. And so I think what they were proposing is taking the meals to the rooms for those students that might be in the rooms.
We also have talked about staff who are going to move those meals to the rooms. And then Mr. Gasper is going to come back and say, well, because of the pest management, with the spilling of milk in the classrooms, it's going to be a very difficult how we do this.
I'll be quiet. Thank you. Answered my question.
Thank you. Now going from COVID, we're going to the superintendent's report, item 6, and we're going to have a presentation about the roundabout that's coming. Dr. Luzisko.
Okay. I'm not, Chuck, can you make sure that Mr. Lynch and the other gentleman can speak? Mr. Lynch, can you hear us? Can you talk?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear. Now, I'm sorry, the other gentleman's name, is he going to be speaking too?
Arif is not speaking. He is on the call. I see
Yes.
that he's listening in. And if for some reason I go astray, I know he'll chime in for me.
Okay. So, Chuck, make sure that Arif can access the communications as well.
Will do.
Tonight we have a presentation on the roundabout for Route 209 and 115. Sir, take it away.
Great. I'm going to first try to, there's Arif. I'm going to first try to share my screen, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if we get through that, and I'll be able to present for you. Are you seeing? Little PowerPoint presentation?
Not yet. Not yet, Jamie.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
There it is. Okay, could be a slight delay. Okay, and then if I go through, I can switch slides. You've seen me go to the second slide?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll take it away. I was told this evening, first of all, it's good to see you. I hope everybody's doing well. Interesting to see you in these times. Sorry for wearing a hat to your board meeting. I was under a hard hat for most of the day, and you really don't want to see what's under this hat. Not having a haircut for several weeks. But in the past several months now, since we saw you in December, we've been working hard on examining the PennDOT project. And my goal tonight is to try to give a very brief summary of what's in a written report that was provided that's far more comprehensive. In the interest of time, I'd like to get kind of to the last slide that identifies the action items that could be considered ahead by the board as this project nears the start of construction. So just from a brief background, the project, as far as its components, remains essentially the same. We're widening Route 209 and 115 around the school campus from 2 to 4 lanes. We have 2 roundabouts, one at the intersection of 115 and 209, the other at Pleasant Valley Way, which is our bone of contention. There are 4 campus intersection improvements that are part of the project. The largest of these is really the Pilgrim Way intersection, with both an alignment and a probable or possible signal. I'll touch on that in a moment. There are stormwater additions that you would expect associated with the new roadway. All of the power, fiber, telecom lines that run on 209 and 115, they'll be relocated in accordance with the road right-of-way. And there are various sidewalks, fences, street signage, street lighting, flashing lights that are all incorporated in the project. We commenced our effort by taking a look at the internal traffic patterns for the district and knowing where staff, students, buses, et cetera, traveled throughout the campus so that we could converse intelligently with PennDOT and express the school district's concerns. So after doing that, we got into what was a very detailed examination of not only traffic information, but the plans that are available. For a project of this size for a roadway, there are literally hundreds of documents associated with it. And PennDOT and their design engineer, Arcane, they were cooperative and provided us with several updates that have occurred to this point in time. And even before the project goes to construction in what I imagine will be late summer, there will be another iteration of documents. We assembled the diagrams of the existing traffic patterns, conducted both telephone meetings and in-person meetings with PennDOT and their representatives. We assembled our own, I'll call it a composite drawing of your property and the improvements so that we could better examine a lot of the detail. And then we conducted an in-person meeting with PennDOT and its team that Donna accompanied us on. Charlotte Brennan was there, Bill was there, and we dropped on them more than 100 comments that we had that expressed the interests of the district and asked questions about how things would be handled, not only from a design perspective, but a construction perspective, and also in protecting the interests of the district with respect to its property and maintenance and how things work in the future. So PennDOT has since responded to those comments in some fashion, satisfactorily, in some cases not satisfactory. The largest point of contention, again, is the roundabout Pleasant Valley Way, which I'll discuss in a moment. And with the solicitor's help, with a letter back to PennDOT, again, kind of reiterating our concerns, and PennDOT has recently responded. The other thing on the side that we're doing is PennDOT, as they take your property or seek to take your property, they provide an appraisal of not only the land, but also the replacement of features that are on the property. And the only way to really negotiate or combat that appraisal based on PennDOT's taking rules, which is in a document called Publication 3, is to perform an independent appraisal. And that process is underway right now. We're working with Mr. Fitzgerald's office and also the appraiser in order to come up with that comparison value, which should be available very shortly. So in summary, and forgive me again for going quickly, we looked at utility coordination. The real bottom line is that most of your utilities are on site already. Propane, well water, on-lot sewer, they're really not impacted by the project. The one thing that is impacted is all of the power poles on 15 and 209 will be relocated by PPL, and that also includes your telecom. And so the desire, the need, the interest of the district is to make sure that there's no interruption of your service while this work occurs. And that's been stressed numerous times to PennDOT. The first year of the project, according to PennDOT, is the utility relocations. So if you've ever kind of watched and followed a roadway project, they have to get all the power poles relocated first and back in service before they can toward road work. So that's the work that would presumably in the fall, unless there's been a delay as a result of the COVID issue, but it would be the first, up to about the first year, according to PennDOT, that they're relocating UTVs before they're getting into hardcore road work. There are stormwater improvements associated, and naturally we'd be interested to make sure that there isn't an impact to the campus based on the stormwater improvements. The image that you see here is, I'll call it the blue ponds, which were an original plan by PennDOT to have stormwater basins on district property. There's 3 locations, if you follow my cursor, on 209, another near bus transportation, another one here at the corner behind the tennis courts. PennDOT has rethought their effort on stormwater, and there are no longer ponds associated with the project. They're no longer on your property. They are on adjoining properties. So that's a good thing for the school district. What there are 2 infiltration trenches. One right here, if you can follow my cursor, adjacent to one of your athletic fields, and the other one behind the tennis courts. It's an infiltration trench. So it's not something that takes wholesale stormwater from off-site. It's the stormwater that's off the road. There will be maintenance requirements associated with those, but I'd like to work with Mr. Fitzgerald's office in making sure that the district is not responsible for those maintenance requirements. There's lots of site details, such as your school sign, such as the ornamental fence out on 209, and other features. And again, without going into great detail, the way that PennDOT works these types of replacements on the roadway projects is they offer you what they believe is fair market value for the replacement. And then they ask you, the property owner, to go out and do the replacement yourself. So in the case of these items, it was in the PennDOT appraisal, not only for the land, but also for the features. And the new appraisal that we should receive shortly would contain your appraiser's opinion of the value of the land, the damages, and also the value of these features. The appraiser has asked us to help him with an estimate of these features like fence and signage. So I'll be putting together a number of these items in order to help round out his final offer. From there, it's a matter of deciding what that number is, and also working, ultimately with PennDOT and the solicitor to, go to a final agreement. And that would be a board decision. So there are a number of board decisions that are coming up to accept in order to allow PennDOT to move forward. Next, I'll go to Pilgrim Lane intersection. And this intersection is being, in the traffic industry, what's called realigned. If you look down on this intersection, it's not a perfect 4-way intersection line, so it actually is. From the district's perspective, this is the main route for dismissal of the vast majority of buses from the campus. And the intersection, as studied by PennDOT, meets what are known as warrants for a traffic signal. Now, a traffic signal is not necessarily guaranteed if the intersection meets warrants, but PennDOT has put out the offer to both the school district and Chestnut Hill Township to install the light. And we're due to give a response on behalf of the district back to PennDOT with respect to the installation of the light. Now, there's 2 things associated with the light. One is the control of the light, because as I mentioned, 115 turns into Lane Road. And presently, as you see here in the graph, it's out in that intersection and stops traffic at the end of the day so the buses can come out. And I would imagine that the district would like the same type of ability to stop traffic on 115 at dismissal, as opposed to waiting for traffic signals to turn red and green and let all the buses out. In order to do that, a control box would be added to the light, and a certified individual would be used in order to control the light. And I'm sure you've all seen this before at another intersection where there might be a police officer or another person that has what looks like a remote control that, you know, clicks the light red and green. And for the 20 minutes or so at dismissal, that would be the only time. And if there are large events on campus, it would be handy to have. So first, there's the requirement to get back to PennDOT in cooperation with the township to say, yes, we'd like the light. I believe that PennDOT has said that they will install the light as part of the project. And then the final step is that traffic lights, whenever they're installed, are put under a maintenance agreement, almost always with the municipality, the township in this case. And the maintenance agreement is exactly what it sounds like, is the annual testing of the light and to make sure the light is operational and for any repairs. And the township is in the business of doing this. So where we are right now is a draft agreement has been provided through Mark's office for that traffic light. We've provided some comments on it, and it's a matter of finishing that agreement and identifying what, if anything, the town may ask the district for perhaps a one-time maintenance fee, an annual fee. I don't exactly know how Chestnut Hill Township operates. But the one other item that I might suggest that we contemplate there are many other maintenance, I put it in air quotes, items that are around the school campus resulting from the project, such as the maintenance of sidewalks, the maintenance of a couple of streetlights and things like that. It would be great if a very clear agreement was written so that everyone understood between the township and the school district who was responsible for maintaining what. PennDOT maintains nothing. They clear the road of snow. All of the maintenance for the roadways essentially falls on the township. And so there's agreement there that's pending. And let me keep going and we'll do questions when I'm done. The gymnasium entrance on 209, this is the exit that's in front, really, I'll call it in front of the auditorium. The point of note here is that the exit lane of this gymnasium exit will be made right turn only. So you'll be headed south on 209. And that was a component that was discussed with the district over the past 2 years, and that's what PennDOT has inserted in the project. Now, when we observe this intersection, the majority of traffic at dismissal makes a right turn out of this driveway, but not everyone. It will be an internal modification of some sort so that at dismissal, any vehicles that want to go left or northbound on 209 need to be able to get either to the roundabout or need to exit at 115 and head to the 115-209 intersection. So that's one component. The big issue, of course, is your roundabout. And I'm not mistaken, I think the school board has voiced its concern about the roundabout and the safety of the roundabout and the features and the size of the roundabout. Just to summarize, this is a 2-lane roundabout, or 2 lanes of traffic that run around the roundabout. It is not a single lane roundabout, so it's fairly sizable. The other point is to note that north of the roundabout, as you head toward the 115 intersection, there is a hard median that's been designed as part of the project. You might also refer to a hard median as a Jersey barrier. And of course, that means that there's no turning across that median. And that's important because Donna can correct me if I'm wrong. I think we've made it clear in no uncertain terms that as a school district, you are unhappy with the idea of new drivers leaving the campus and trying to navigate this roundabout, particularly if they have to cross a lane of traffic in order to head northbound on 209. and the history behind it that we found was that the design team, when they put the project together, after they did all of their studies, and they did study the intersection, they do have the count of students who leave in the afternoon at that dismissal hour. But the design team originally recommended a signalized intersection here, which is what I think is really preferred. The signalized intersection takes less land. It obviously stops traffic at dismissal, and it has the advantage of not taking parking spaces from the staff lot that are immediately adjacent to the designed right-of-way. So what we found was that PennDOT, after the review of the design team, came in and suggested this roundabout be installed so that they would decrease the traffic flow in the median between the roundabout and the intersection of 115 and 209. They did not want a turning lane here such that cars could access the businesses on either side of 209. And their logic on the roundabout was southbound traffic could then use the roundabout to essentially perform a U-turn and run backwards and access the district, the businesses on the other side. Certainly a decision that, in our opinion, is not in the best interest of the school district. And there are many, many other items here to discuss. But let me keep going. We'll get to the last slide here. The other thing that we want to nail down with PennDOT, with the township, is the phasing plan for construction. 4-year overall. You've witnessed projects in other areas, I'm sure, and what a mess it can be. And the number one mandate is for the safety of everyone who traverses the roads, the safety and staff and parents, but also to make sure that all traffic patterns are continuously maintained and there is no interruption of the school process. There are also safety related to construction workers who would be on school district property in the construction easement, being able to require things like the clearances for those workers that are there, making sure that there's not coming and trying to park on school district property, making sure that construction occurs only at intersections when it's not in session. Those are all important things so that this project, while it could be successful in the end, is not a nuisance for the next 4 years. The final thing we tried to look at was the future district plans. And I know this is a little bit of ways out. We did take a look and understood the work that a prior architect had done with the district in order to examine the options. And it appeared that if there are building options there on campus, they were focused on the front of the building. And while, that's really a stretch for us to discuss tonight, especially with COVID-19, it comes into play as to whether or not the direction, the one on Pleasant Valley Way would ever change. So for instance, if the one-way direction as shown in this image went to the north toward 115, that exit for student traffic would certainly be less perilous than using roundabout. So that's just one concept that we examined. So here I get to the last slide. I know I've gone over seven minutes, but these, in our opinion, are the biggest action items as we move forward. There is a lot of work. We'll be working with this project. You'll be working with this project for the next 4 years. But the first is to complete the independent appraisal, consider the potential steps, evaluate the value that we get from the appraisal company, and make a decision as to whether we'd be willing to accept PennDOT's offer, negotiate PennDOT's offer, or perhaps reject the offer entirely. The second item is to confirm the desire that the school district has for the signal and control box at Pilgrim Way and notify PennDOT and then record an agreement with the township for signal, stormwater, and related maintenance of that intersection, and really the entire project could be lumped into one. The next is the roundabout. And having received the letter from PennDOT, a decision has to be made as to what to do next. The letter that came from PennDOT really rejected all of the items that we had broached as far as concerns with student traffic and the need to examine our internal traffic patterns. And so the question remains, do we respond with a direct letter on the roundabout? Do we proceed with some type of legal action in order to work on either delaying things or hopefully getting something that's more amenable to the district? Or do we go another route with a state representative and some other form of pressure to be able to say, hey, we're not satisfied with this, and there is a design for a signalized intersection that could work. In speaking with traffic consultants and other folks, there's very little leeway here, but I don't think we want to go down without once again strenuously voicing the concerns that you may have. Next is to review and determine with PennDOT if the roundabout is going to be installed, how traffic might be stopped at dismissal. There is an option for a controlled signal to stop traffic in the roundabout. Presently, that intersection is controlled by one of your safety officers that stops traffic, but 4 lanes, well, excuse me, 2 lanes in either direction from a 4-way intersection might be a little much for one individual to handle in the renovated condition. So the opportunity does exist to figure out a way to put some type of signal out there, at least, to stop all traffic at dismissal. And then finally, an agreement with PennDOT to address construction phasing, the clearances issue, the insurance that would be required as contractors are on your property, and really to make sure that you have a contractor for the restoration
We're losing
or
you.
somebody else if in the event that he's going to walk away. Are you? Any better now?
Yes.
Fortunately, that was my last slide. So from there, I'd be happy to open it up to
Jamie, what is the time span on us receiving the appraisal for our property?
Mark might chime in, but I believe that they'll be ready
I can't hear you.
to have that appraisal next week, Donna.
This week, did you say?
Next week.
Yeah,
Next
Donna, I think we're within the next week to 10 days.
Okay, the beginning of June then. Thank you.
I do have a question. Is it true that there is not one school in the state of Pennsylvania that has a roundabout in the front or
That's a
on their
big-
property?
Thank you.
Agreed, and I can't confirm across the state of Pennsylvania. Can you hear me okay?
Now I can.
Okay. Across the state of Pennsylvania, I can't confirm that for you because I don't know everything. I do believe is that this installation is unique because the roundabout is directly between the school parking lot and a state road. There have been many references to a route that's so Lehigh, and it's completely different than this one. But I have not searched high and low, but I have not heard of anyone coming up and telling me that right at arrival or dismissal, there's a roundabout that connects directly to a state road.
Now, I've been going to meetings since before I was on the board, so it's about 2.5 years. And I had asked a few times of PennDOT to give a transparency that goes over to show where the roundabout would be on the district property, because obviously where we see it is in their drawing is not the truth. So it was a false presentation of where they were putting this roundabout. And my concern, and a lot of the board members have a concern of the safety of our students. This roundabout is very close to the front of the high school where people walk on sidewalks, cars are driving. And what if some vehicle loses control. What is it going to crash into? I'm very concerned that our students, or people at our district, parents, whoever, are walking and a car goes and smashes into them or into different parts of our, property. I'm just very concerned about how close the proximity of this roundabout is to the front of our building and our parking.
Jamie, I want to
So,
thank you for the drawings. If nothing, my level of concern has been raised even more as I'm looking at the roundabout right smack dab in the middle of our front yard of the high school. I'm envisioning 2 school buses or a tractor trailer and a school bus simultaneously going around the roundabout in unison. Not to mention Mrs. Jecker's concern. But thank you for the graphics.
Yes.
They were very clear.
If I just briefly, let's see if this works, and share my screen one more time, I will show you that that comparison. Oh, I've been disabled. Okay, so that means I just talked too long. But what happens at that lot is what happens at the lot is this, the staff lot driveway that ultimately connects with the driveway that leads to 209 becomes eliminated. And we have put together, we'll be putting through the cradle, where in order to connect that end of the staff lot for egress out of the property, spaces, unfortunately. But we do have a solution for that staff lot, and it is definitely part of the discussion with regard to the taking.
If this property was so important, why didn't they just buy out the district and we could have moved the school to a different piece of property and built our new high school? I mean, it's just ridiculous that they're taking over the front of the school. It's a horrible appearance. We're not a city. How do we stop this from happening?
Well, I can provide you with the engineering analysis, and I know I'll team with Mr. Fitzgerald here a little bit to try to understand what our options are. Maybe that's not a discussion for the open board meeting, but I'm open.
Jamie, let me just add, and I think there were some valid points in the presentation. It would be a multi-pronged approach, Laura. We can continue to do the letter writing, and that will get you only so far. There are legal avenues, and I can talk to you, and we've talked about that. And it's a prescribed process with regard to the taking of property that really triggers that legal component of it. But it's noted, there's also the pressure that we can put on from a public perspective. We are not a private landowner here. We are our own municipality. So we do have a bit more.
You're frozen.
Frozen.
Issue. Does that make sense?
No, you were frozen.
You were frozen.
Oh, I was frozen. Okay. Well, maybe that's a good thing. We're in a unique position. We can make more noise than the average homeowner.
I think the community needs, we have a lot of people on today, I think the community needs to let the representatives, Jack Rader and also Rosemary Brand and Morris Gavello, know what this looks like at our school, because I don't think they're aware of how close this is to the front of our building. And the parents and the students all need to get involved and make some noise.
So Jamie, what do you need from us as a united board right now?
Well, I think, there's an approach to go about this in order to clear the deck of some things that I think you might be in agreement on. One, it begins with the light, I think, at Pilgrim Way. if indeed we're happy with having a light that you would like the control, you could proceed and make sure that PennDOT is able to confirm that it is part of the project and continue to work with the township on with respect to the maintenance agreement for that light.
Jamie, two questions.
And we have
Now's a
to,
good time to
nail
say
who that is. Yeah.
Well, you had commented earlier on the retention ponds. You said there were like several of them built in, and now they're not going to be on our property anymore. The one the large one that's on your diagram by the bus compound, where is that going to go? If that's not on our property anymore, where are they putting that?
There's a pond now. I'll call it on the south side of 209, Dan.
Okay.
And I can through the administrator send you a drawing to show you exactly where that is.
Okay. And the other question I had, just out of curiosity, and I raised this issue before. If you said if you turn right out of that bus exit, you have to turn right onto 209 south. Is correct?
Yes.
There's no left. What's preventing? Question A. What's preventing the left? Is it a
that
barricade?
location. It's a curb. It's a
You're breaking up.
Yeah, breaking up.
concrete curb before when you turn right. But not sure what else I can do.
Okay,
Here.
well, I think you answered it. And then my second question is, therefore, as I continue past the front of the high school, and I'm going on 209 South, and I want to go to Burger King, how do I get there?
Burger King is up towards 115. Is that right?
Across from the bus complex, basically.
Okay, so you would leave that driveway. You would turn right.
Correct.
And then there is no hard barrier there. You'd turn left into Burger King, I imagine. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Isn't that
The
going to be
hard
the
barrier is only between 115 and the roundabout.
Jamie, where does the 4-lane end then, going 209?
The 4-lane tapers to 2 lanes past right about even, I'm going to say, with the bus garage. So the road tapers at that location. So when you're even with the bus garage on 209, it goes back to 2 lanes.
So then it'd almost be impossible to even turn into Burger King because you'd have 4 lanes coming or 2 lanes coming behind you.
Sorry, you have to forgive me because I don't exactly know where Burger King is. I'd have to pull up the map to answer the question, but I really can.
So you're
Thank you for the
looking for us
presentation.
to give you guidance on the light, that one light, and you'd like that this evening?
I think it might require some more discussion, but it is a need of PennDOT and the township to know affirmatively that you would like the light. And I think the direction would be you favor the light so long, help me Mark, as the agreement and terms for the installation of the light are satisfactory to the board. And that would be memorialized in agreement that you approve at a following board meeting.
Yeah, this would obviously be subject to terms acceptable to us that would have to be ratified. I think, and Jamie's correct, is there any objection to Jamie's office and my office continuing to engage with the township on that light subject to terms that are approved by the board?
On 115, Norm, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with it, Mark.
I'm fine with it as well.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Me as all.
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So the more difficult action, which we need to have some additional discussion, is what the next move is on the route and how to respond and make the calls with the ideas that you had in mind this evening. I don't have an engineering mechanism by which I can and tell
Do
them
we
to
need
change their mind.
first of all to get the information of the appraisal?
I agree.
Yes, I would
That's
agree with
We have
that.
to determine that.
Yes. That's vital information.
Yes,
Okay. So then we'll move forward on the light, Mark, and we will wait until we get the answer on the appraisal for further discussion, I guess.
I think that's fair. And some of those discussions, may be worthy of closed session of the board once we receive the appraisal.
Okay.
Mr. Lynch, thank you for that presentation. It's very informative, and I think what you're hearing tonight, this issue is far from over.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks,
Thank
Arif.
you very much. We'll continue to work hard for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, Dr. Luzisko.
Okay, section 6, I am seeking approval for item 6B. Items 6C and 6D are informational.
May I have a motion for item 6B, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Jecker, seconded by
Todd,
Mr. Kresge.
the second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Laura Jecker,
Yes.
Todd Kreski,
Yes.
Delbert Zacharias,
Yes.
Teresa Grego,
Yes.
Donna Yoswiak,
Yes.
Norm Berger,
Yes.
Len Peters,
Yes.
Dan Wonder,
yes,
Sue Kreski.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Dr. Luzisko?
Ms. Yosviak, before we go to section 7, I just want to say that tomorrow is Dr. Burris's last day here at Pleasant Valley. And I want to thank him for his 6 years of service with the school district. And we all wish him well at Easton in his future endeavors. Thank you,
Thank
Jason.
you.
Yes, thank you.
In section 7, I'm seeking approval for item 7A. Item 7B and 7C are informational.
May I have a motion for item 7A?
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Mrs. Jecker, seconded by,
Me.
oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Zacharias. Is there any discussion? I would like roll call, please.
Laura Jecker,
Yes.
Delbert Zacharias,
Yes.
Todd Kreski,
Yes.
Dan Wonder,
yes,
Sue Kreski,
Yes.
Norm Berger,
Yes.
Len Peters,
Yes.
Donna Yoswiak,
Yes.
Teresa Grego.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to inform the community that this resolution that the board just passed is urging the General Assembly to provide critical support and mandate relief to public schools in view of the many expenses we as a district have incurred because of the school closure and COVID-19. So thank you, board. Moving on, number 8, Dr. Burris.
Thank you, Mrs. Yosviak. Tonight I am requesting approval for regular agenda items 8B through 8H.
May I have a motion for items 8B through 8H?
so moved.
Motion by Mr. Wonder,
Second.
second by Mrs. Kresge. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dan Wonder,
Yes,
Sue Kreski,
Yes.
Laura Jecker,
Yes.
Todd Kreski,
Yes, except I got to abstain from item 8D1 relative.
Norm Berger,
Yes.
Len Peters,
Yes.
Delbert Zacharias,
Yes.
Teresa Grego,
Yes.
Donna Yoswiak.
Yes. And I'd like to also inform the public that with that motion, we're going to be saying farewell to 4 important employees Mr. AJ Keiss has resigned from Pupil Services. Ms. Stacy Stair, Assistant to the Business Manager. Mr. Josh Ziadik, Assistant to the Superintendent. And our head girls basketball coach, Nadia Goronsky, but she will still remain at PV as a teacher. Thank you for your years of service. All right, moving on, Dr. Burris, number 9.
This time I'm requesting approval for addenda items 9B through 9K.
May I have a motion for 9B through 9K?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Jecker,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Peters. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, yes, two things, Donna. One a comment, one a question. I certainly hope, I noticed looking at that list of transfers, and I know the hard work that went into, making all of that happen and having it be successful. But given the success, overwhelming success of our FBLA program, the number of kids that have been in front of us, at board meetings, the level of professionalism and success they've met. I hope that every opportunity is given for Denise Hopley to meet with success in continuing her role as advisor to that program, in whatever form that is, as she makes that transfer out of the high school. We've got a very successful program there, and I think all of us on the board want to see it remain successful. And she's been an integral part of that success. The other question I have actually is for Mrs. Grego, because we're approving the supplemental contract. Mr. Surface's question earlier raised a question from me. When the supplemental contract indicates some, well, how do I want to say this, Teresa, lowering of the hours for band instruction. In the making of that decision and recommendation, were the band people consulted as to the impact that would have on the program?
Well, I will say that Tom Toth was very involved, and he had conversations with Jim DeVivo. So as in, he was part of our committee work.
Okay, so he was, at least he knows, he had some input to it through Tom.
Yep, and we had talked about assistants that would be needed, how many he had at one time, and then his projection of 6th grade band coming through and hoping that the program continues to grow. So he has definitely had some conversation with Tom Toth over that.
So he did not feel that the loss of instructional hours, band practice hours, would significantly hurt our program.
Well, I didn't have that discussion with him, but remember, we had talked about rather than having a one-on-one band lesson, it might now be a 1-on-5 or a 1-on-4 in reference to our discussion before.
Okay.
So we're not cutting those times they can have practice, but maybe having a smaller group rather than one-on-one, and still offering band lessons.
And the band people had input to that decision.
Well, Tom Toth was part of that as our athletic director and went back and forth several times through several meetings with different people on clubs and activities, to get some data that we use for decisions.
It's always been my feeling that we should have input, and thank you for the answer. It's always been my feeling that the people being affected should have input as to the actual effect on the programs. But
yeah,
okay, thank you.
We definitely are data driven, so we did.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other discussion?
I have a question. The box popped up and I can't read when I click on K what it is.
Appointment of Open Records Officer, Miss Dr. Robert Morrow.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion?
Ms. Yozowiak, before we proceed, I just want to welcome Dr. Robert Morrow to our team as the interim Human Resources Director. He comes to us with a superintendency background. He is certainly retired, and he's also vocational technical director. So welcome, Dr. Morrow. We're looking forward to working with you and helping us on our future endeavors as we search for a new director of human resources. Thank you, sir.
Roll call, please.
Laura Jecker,
Yes.
Len Peters,
Yes.
Dan Wonder,
Yes.
Sue Kresge,
No.
Todd Kresge,
Yes.
Donnie Oswiak,
Yes.
Norm Berger,
Yes.
Teresa Grego,
Yes.
Delbert Zacharias.
Yes.
Motion carried. And I'd like to inform the community that item 9D, which we just approved, the resolution regarding the non-renewal of temporary professional employees, was based upon a number of principal meetings, administrative recommendations made to the HR department for we as a board to consider. Okay, moving on, Mr. Ziadic, number 10.
Thank you, Ms. Joswiak. Tonight, we are seeking approval for a recommendation for a math program moving forward. Prior to that request, remember last week, our math supervisor, Ms. Liddick, and Director of Curriculum, Dr. Susan Maurer-Benda, did a presentation, a recommendation for a math program. So in the recommendation, we have provided you as a board options of 1, 3, and 5 years. And the recommendation from last week's presentation and the curriculum department is for a 5-year adoption for a few reasons. But we will have Ms. Liddick tonight and Dr. Maurer-Benda available for questions. But I also want Dr. Lucisco asked me to pass it to him for his recommendation as well.
My recommendation would be the 3 or the 5 year program. I don't think a 1 year is going to be enough because it's going to take us at least 3 years to determine whether the data looks good or not.
All right, may I have a motion for item 10A? Then we'll have discussion.
I'd like to make a motion for the 5-year new math program, Ready Classroom.
I second that.
So I have a motion for the 5-year Ready Classroom for Mrs. Kresge and a second by Mr. Wonder. Do I have a motion for any others?
I think you have to take care of that motion first.
Okay, well, let's take care of that one first. Let's have some discussion.
Yeah, Ms. Joswiak, I'd just like to say that with the uncertainty of what next school year is going to look like, I don't want to see us starting a new math program. My thoughts are looking at extending Go Math 1 more year, getting Ms. Liddick and a team together during that year to write a curriculum that meets our students' needs versus going 5 years with the new program. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I'd just like to remind the board that when Ms. Liddick did her presentation last week, that our teachers that piloted and looked at this program were 91% in favor of moving forward with Ready Classroom, and that there's a proponent called iReady in this Ready Classroom that would definitely be beneficial for virtual learning.
Yeah, I have to echo Sue's thing. I think not to jump on this program after our teachers have spent the time, effort, energy in the work they did to give us this feedback would be kind of throw it in their face.
I think it'd be a mistake to try to continue with a program that's on its way out. Riding a dead horse.
And I'll comment, while piloting that program, there were concerns brought forward that were then corrected by the Ready Classroom, is what we heard in that presentation. Do you remember us talking about the second part of that classroom, Ready Classroom, addressed the concerns that the teachers teaching it had, and they seemed pretty happy with the revisions that were made by going on to Ready Classroom.
The only concern I have is that all the training is up front. And I just want to make sure that our staff, if they need training, they get it. If we get new staff, are they going to be able to have the training? It's weird that it's all at once and not,
Can I interject for a second? The training is not all at once, it's throughout the year. So the way the training portrayed this year was we did it first at the very beginning of the year and then again in October and then last in February.
Right, so it's in the first year, it's in the beginning of the program. If you're looking at a 5-year, it is the beginning of the program. So that was my concern, that it was just in that beginning of the program. So that was what I thought I heard.
Anyone else?
Siobhan, just quick question about an assessment tool. The middle school is not starting this new program, right? It's K through
Correct.
5,
It's
okay?
first through fifth for Ready Classroom, and then sixth grade is for the iReady. The reason it has it on the quote for middle school is because we were trying to make a distinction between the Ready Classroom for first through fifth grade with the iReady, and sixth grade, remember, is only doing iReady. So we were trying to make that distinction, which is why they put it under.
Okay, and that's an assessment tool for the middle school, correct?
It's for PVI for sixth grade.
They had to separate it.
Oh, I see. So it's not the middle, okay, that was.
No, it's not the middle school.
No.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I want to point out, if you look at the monitor, the funding for this Ready Classroom is coming from the CARES money, the COVID funding that we're getting, if that makes a difference. Any other discussion?
Donna, yeah, where do you see that? I'm sorry.
I'm looking at, I just clicked at it, on it, it's
I see it.
category,
I see
subject
it.
type.
I
So
got it.
it's coming from the CARES funding, not the curriculum budget. So that may impact someone's decision.
So the money that was going to be used for this program out of the curriculum budget will no longer be in the curriculum budget. It will be removed, so we're lowering our budget.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it would not lower our budget. The CARES funding is filling in areas that we had already budgeted.
I think she's
If I may
I
jump
lost her.
in, it's Dr. Mauer-Benda. With the utilization of the funding from CARES, there was discussion about not only the curriculum budget, but of course, Ready to Learn funds. Now those funds are freed up from Ready to Learn or from our curriculum budget. And so they would now be coming from the CARES subsidy. We also, as a district, are required to complete an application for the CARES subsidy, and we must identify how we are using funds to support students and to also address not only remote learning, but also the potential learning gaps that might have come forth because of the COVID crisis. And we are prepared to place that into our application at this point. This program with Ready, as Ms. Liddick has identified, is that there's a substantial digital support that can support at least the grades 1 to 5 of our population, and can also support not only the education, but also supports the instruction of teachers and provides an assessment tool that we also need to report to the state about how we are using our funds.
So there'll be new things added to the contract for Ready Classroom.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
I'm not sure, maybe I heard it wrong. You said that you have to get more, you have to get additional tools so you could report to the state because you use the CARES money for the program. Is that correct?
Well, no, I believe what I was seeing is that according to the state in our application for CARES, we must respond to certain questions in our application that identify how we are using the money that they are providing for CARES.
Right.
we're identifying that we are going to be purchasing or would like to purchase a math program that would service our students from grades 1 to 5. We believe that not only could the program support brick and mortar synchronous instruction, but it also supports the opportunity for students to work asynchronously and also with digital resources if our students are not in the brick and mortar.
Okay.
And not only are those tools available within this program, but there is also a dashboard, a digital dashboard for our teachers, that there are assessments that can be provided. And I believe, Mrs. Jecker, you might have been with us at the curriculum committee presentation of the dashboard, that teachers are able to get real-time data regarding what students are doing and are able to group students, provide additional supports, mediation, or acceleration for our students utilizing this program. So it not only is it a program that's going to be functional in a brick and mortar setting, but it is also a program that will be very functional in a digital or a distance learning setting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Sue Krasinski,
Yes.
Dan Wonder,
Yes.
Lynn Peters,
No.
Teresa Grego,
Yes.
Delbert Zacharias,
No.
Norm Berger,
Yes.
Donna Yoswiak,
Yes.
Todd Kresge,
Yes.
Laura Jecker.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Under item 11, Mr. Keiss, do you have anything for us this evening?
No report.
Item 12, Mr. Gasper.
No report, just
Thank you.
informational item.
Thank you. Under number 13, building reports, I'd like to point out to the board that under the high school report, Mr. Triolo broke down the 5 different honor society inductees by name to honor these students, as well as the academic award winners. We have many, many fine students, and if you take a look at it, a lot of names will probably be familiar.
Thank you.
Number 14, Mrs. Famularo, Business Management.
Thank you. Tonight I'm seeking approval of items 14B through 14F. G is informational.
May I have a motion for 14B through F?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Peters,
Second.
second by Mrs. Jecker. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Lynn Peters,
Yes.
Laura Jecker,
Yes.
Todd Kresge,
Yes.
Donna Yoswiak,
Yes.
Delbert Zacharias,
Yes.
Teresa Grego,
Yes.
Norm Berger,
Yes.
Sue Kresge,
Yes.
Dan Wonder.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Just briefly, and over the last number of weeks, you know, I've updated you as circumstances have been changing and evolving surrounding legal implications of our closure and crisis. I know that within the next, I'd say, week or two, we should be expecting some comprehensive, what I'll call white papers from PSBA, PSEA, a number of the organizations like HASBO, as relates to guidance for school entities, both from an academic and legal and operational perspective for the reopening of schools in the fall. I think that from a board perspective and an administrative perspective, we will have our work cut out for us, but some guidance, thankfully, will start coming our way, hopefully over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Pleasant Valley School Directors.
The only thing I'm going to say is I'm going to echo previous made comments that I wish Josh and AJ and Stacy all the best. Thank you for your service here. JT, I already said nice things about you before, and I'll repeat them now. Good luck in your future. The only comment I feel compelled to make, and I will make it, is that, and I'm not sure my count's right, it's off the top of my head, but in less than 2 years, we've lost at least 7 administrators. And as a resident of this community, as a taxpayer, as a former employee, as a parent to kids who went through here, as a grandparent to kids that are going through here now, and certainly as a board member, that is a major concern of mine. It's a little scary what this exodus portends. And as a board, I think we need to sit down and look at that, look at ourselves, look at our district, and, you know, see what we can do to retain talented people, because we're losing some very talented people. And regretfully, our success would certainly depend on us finding the very best people to fill those positions. We had, you know, I wish them well, and it's a shame we can't retain them.
Thank you. Anyone else?
This
Yes.
is Norm. Go ahead, Susan. I'll follow you.
Okay, thanks, Norm. I guess a question for either Siobhan or Susan. With the approval of the math program this evening, how soon will the documents arrive, or how soon can they arrive? And can we get them in the hands of the teachers for the summer? And I know that Dr. Lee had sent out today what the 9 teacher days are going to look like, and just wondering about any professional development that could be done with the math program. What are your thoughts? Where are we at? Have we thought about this?
To get the actual text or the textbooks in the hands of the teachers before they are gone for summer break is probably almost impossible. But what we can do is we're going to go tomorrow, and we're going to get the PO done, and we're going to fax over the order, so that way we can get at least the online access. So the teachers will have online access over the summer. And then we're going to schedule professional development at some point during the summer. If we can get it within the next couple of weeks, we're going to try, but I don't know if that's going to be possible.
So you're looking at it. You're going to try your best.
Absolutely.
I would echo that. Whatever you can do to get them in the teachers' hands would be great.
Absolutely. That would be our ultimate goal. You know, of course, we need to work with Dr. Losisco. We need to work with you know, regarding, you know, the teacher's schedule and their contract. But it would be great to think forward if we could have some flexibility with some professional development days. I know that the representative from Curriculum Associates had said that they're very flexible in their professional development, and they can do it in a virtual setting. So if we can possibly coordinate that over the course of the summer, that would be amiable to all parties. That is the direction that we would like to go as soon as possible.
Yeah, Ms. Kresge, I'm sorry to interject here. Was your question specifically for PD with math over the next 9 teacher days that are makeup days?
Well, I was looking at those 9 days, yeah, because some of them are self-directed, you know,
Right.
And I thought, well, if we could get anything done, because we only have 2 days in the beginning of the year. We have safe schools training, and you know, there's a lot of stuff to be done.
Yeah, correct. So the way that those days have been laid out are self-directed. So those would be chosen by teachers, and they would, provide a summary to our building principals of what they did and accomplished and how it will positively affect, the future years. But I believe Dr. Losisco laid out 3 days that were just self-directed, not district-directed.
Well,
Okay.
the only thing I'll say is that I read Dr. Lee's memo, and he did indicate that teachers could use some of that time for self-directed activities that would best, their classroom, performance or whatever. If we could get into the teachers' hands the fact that they could go online, they might choose to then use that time, obviously orienting themselves to a new math program.
I guess it's all going to depend on whether we get the materials.
Right. Well, I see we can shoot them a PO number.
Do we need the materials to go online?
No.
I guess they would need, or that we just need the authority to be able to go online.
Correct.
They have to give the money.
Or a
Anyone
purchase order number. Yeah.
I want to make it a point to say, our teachers through this whole COVID pandemic have put in countless hours of different times a day, multiple times calling parents, helping tutor students. I just want to thank them for their hard work, their dedication to our students. Some of them are driving around and dropping things off on lawns for their students. They miss their students. I want to make sure that we all thank them for all their hard work and all their efforts during all this, because it's been hell for all of us.
And I'd like to echo Laura's statement that the strength, I've always maintained, the strength of this district is the teaching staff. It always has been, it is now, and it always will be.
And with that, I'd like to let everyone know, we have 36 individuals who are retiring from our district this year. And because of COVID-19, they too missed out on farewell celebrations, a farewell banquet, end of year congratulatory remarks from students and staff. So if you please bear with me, I would like to recognize these individuals.
Thank you, Donna.
Retiring support staff: Deborah Anderson, PVI paraprofessional; Mary Anderson, high school paraprofessional; Helen Balliot, food service employee head cook; Diane Bittenbender, food service employee; Vicky Camerari, confidential employee; Karen Deppen, health room technician; Barbara Fodor, paraprofessional; Janice Honey, health room technician; Danuta Jackowitz, administrative secretary; Jasmine Kohler, paraprofessional; Marianne Kohlberger, paraprofessional; Bruce Krogolski, paraprofessional; Elke Reeves, information systems technician; Judith Sandbeg, food service employee; Roxanne Scheller, health room technician at the high school; Patricia Urban, paraprofessional; Marianne Veneziano, custodian; Kathleen Walsko, food service employee; Diane Wicknick, custodian. And 17 professional members of our staff are retiring: Steve Bitto, PVI music; Stephen Ayers, high school math; Sandy DiAgostino, middle school teacher of the gifted; Aaron Picerni, PVI grade 4; Kim Bear, PVI remedial reading; Judith Dondi, PVI special education; Jean Paulin, middle school speech; Romaine Straight, PVE stream and art; Kathy Balsh, high school nurse; George Picerni, PVE stream; Deb Stewart, high school special education; Tierney Myers, middle school health and physical education; Marianne Pitts, high school science; Ron Balecki, PVI music; John Gaziski, high school driver education; Melissa O'Keefe, PVI ESOL; and also Monica Williamson, who passed away untimely last month, PVI IST. I hope everyone has a great retirement, and on behalf of the Board of Education, we celebrate your dedication to our kids and our community.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Alrighty. With that, Pleasant Valley citizens, agenda items and non-agenda items, I invite you to speak for up to 3 minutes. If you'd like to address the board, please raise your hand.
I see a couple.
R. Martinetti has been unmuted.
I'm sorry. Please state your name and township of residence, please.
Hi, this is Rich Martinetti. I'm a Ross Township resident, and I'm also the physical therapist for Coordinated Health and Lehigh Valley, right across the street from you. This was a wonderful meeting. I just wanted to say it's been a wonderful opportunity and honor to serve the Pleasant Valley School District community. I've made wonderful friendships here with the athletes, with the staff. In fact, many of the kids who've come over as athletes and even to just observe physical therapy, some of them have gone on to become physical therapists. So I feel like we've had a nice, wonderful, positive impact. I live here in the community. I work in this community. 2 of my kids went through Pleasant Valley, and I have a rising senior right now. So, I mean, at least I can say I have some skin in the game. You know, we've grown together. We've learned a lot as, you know, Pleasant Valley and Coordinated Health relationship has gone for the past 22 years. You know what you're getting. You know Lamont, you know Jay, you know me, Dr. Terpstra. We're the face of this contract, and we're here. I look forward to the next years going forward in furthering this relationship. We treat everybody like family here. We communicate tirelessly, the trainers, the therapists, the doctors, about that athlete. And to add Mr. Toth into this with the athletic director, that would be an easy communication to do. But again, as Ms. Jecker said, this is much more than athletics. This is about the whole community at large, and we're serving that right now. And I think we've made some wonderful relationships, and I look forward to doing that in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I see a thumb up for Amy Davis. So I don't know if she wants to speak or not.
Anyone else, Chuck?
Yes, we have one more.
Okay.
John G.
Please state your name and township of residence.
John Gaziski, Chestnut Hill Township. I am also a retiree, which thank you for acknowledging that. I'm a 26-year coach of the volleyball, started the program over 26 years ago. 26 years, 22 of those Coordinated Health has helped our athletes to become successful in recovery as quick as possible. I hear throughout the board, time and time again, how we ask the teachers, math teachers about math programs, the science teachers about science programs, the reading people about reading programs. And tonight I heard Mr. Wonder say, did the music know what's happening with their program? Yet we now have 11 coaches that responded to a survey that was sent to every coach with a time frame, and those 11 coaches responded within the time frame and positive all for Coordinated Health and the trainers that combined have over 30 years of experience amongst them. And when you talk about the EPC type of players that we have to go up against, most school districts have 3 times the amount of athletes we do. We can't afford to have our athletes down. And our athletes feel very, very comfortable with Coordinated Health trainers that they've had since 7th grade. And to turn around and now expect them to have someone else taping private areas, which they have come accustomed to. Now we have strangers here. Are they going to be able to turn around and say, hey, I'm not going to tell anybody about this injury because I don't feel comfortable with these new trainers. All right. I think we need to take that in consideration. We can't really put a price tag on our athletes and our sports programs. And I'm hoping with that, we will continue our support with Coordinated Health, either the Lehigh Valley Health with Jay and Lamont and Shay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, we have user Tunib. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. You're unmuted.
Would you please state your name and township of residence?
Good evening. My name is Tony Bush. I am in Chestnut Hill Township. First of all, Mr. G, great speech there. I'd like to echo his sentiments regarding our trainers. Jay, Shay, Lamont, they're wonderful, and I put my full support behind them as a coach. Now, I'm also speaking here, not in that capacity tonight. By now, I'm hoping that the school board, the members there have had a chance to read the letter that I sent to each of you regarding our concerns with the current NHS election process. The decision on whether or not to speak at tonight's meeting was extremely difficult for me for several reasons. However, as I stated in the letter, I work hard to base my professional and personal life on integrity and principle, and I teach my children, students, and athletes to do the same. Having conviction and fighting for what's right is pivotal in creating positive change when necessary. So I feel that I need to practice what I preach in this situation and have gone through the necessary channels to do so. I'm not here tonight only for my own child, but on behalf of every future Pleasant Valley student who will find him or herself in a similar predicament if the current selection process is not rectified. I will spare the details tonight. It's been a long meeting, but they were all outlined in the letter that was sent to you. But I felt it was important to speak out publicly. I just want to make sure that students in the future, we avoid this feeling of helplessness, confusion, and feeling let down after working so hard to meet the standards that are set, only to feel that sense of rejection unfoundly, to be perfectly honest. And I'm hoping and ask respectfully that you consider the arguments put forth in the letter that I wrote, my husband and I, and I'm here if you have any questions. I look forward to hearing back from you and hope that in the future we can make this a more transparent, clear process for these high achieving students who work so hard to reach that honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Bush, this is Dr. Lasisco. We will be working with Mr. Triol in the high school. We're going to review the processes, make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
Are there any other community members?
There are no more hands risen.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, I would like to make the community aware that we will be having a building and grounds meeting on June 8th at this time virtually. And our next Board of Education meeting will be on June 11th. If there's nothing else for the good of the order, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Zacharias.
And good night. Going to bed.
Seconded by Mr. Kresge. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.